Welcome to DC to Daylight. My name is Aaron, amateur radio call sign N6ACA. Right now we're going to talk about plans for the new year. So both how to plan in general and my plans for ham radio in the year 2026. So planning to plan a plan based on previous plans and planned activities. That sounds ridiculous. But when we are planning, we need to look at what we've done in the past and what we plan on doing in the future in the broad scheme of things. In that knot of coax that I just laid out there, we have to think about, you know, our previous outcomes and previous results in what we had planned for, and really what is important to us. My previous goals within the last 5 years have been to upgrade to amateur extra, and I was successful in that goal. Um, Studied for 6 weeks and used ham study as well as using Dave Kassler's YouTube videos, and I was very successful. Other previous goals from when I initially got licensed were to learn CW, and I failed miserably. Um, then beyond that, within the last 2 years, I set a personal goal to earn the N6ACA, which is a certificate from ARRL that shows that you've made 100 different confirmed connections or QSOs with 100 different geopolitical country entities, which there's 300 and something of those. And while that seems sort of an arcane, weird thing to do, I've gotten much joy from doing that, and the ARRL has enjoyed taking my money to give me a certificate. So when we're setting goals, we have to think about setting a clearer goal. So something that is actionable and has a time frame and a way that we can actually measure it. So a goal might be to get your ham radio license. So you might be coming here because the algorithm is telling you this is a place to talk about licensing, or maybe not. Maybe you're coming here randomly. So if your goal is to get a technician's license or upgrade to a general, you need to have a way to measure your incremental success. So if you've got a tool to do license testing, such as hamstudy.org or any other tool such as that, maybe you set up that you don't move forward in the sessions until you get 80% of those 80% scores, within those sections before you move forward. Or maybe you say, I want to be licensed in November and move back from there. See how long it's going to take to go through all the different elements and figure that out. But make it as something that is achievable, and dedicate the time that you need for those goals. If you have these aspirational goals to do something at some point, but really don't give resources to it, whether it be money or time, you're not setting yourself up for success. You're really setting up to fail. And really, that's what we want to do, is we want to set folks up to be successful in their endeavors. I mean, I want to achieve things, and so I set up my own goals in bite-size morsels in which I can be successful and then move on to the next thing and have incremental growth versus, these big bangs of successes. It's more incremental success that leads up to a great outcome. So within 2026, my first goal is to actually learn CW. So I've wanted to learn Morse code before I was licensed as a ham, but I actually put effort into it when I initially got licensed. And my failures in learning Morse code were really from a lack of planning and naivete of that I could use different shortcut methods. I had used a program that used neurolinguistic programming to try to learn different software, learning tools, and things that were really shortcuts to success. And the thing that I've found as I've gotten older, through academics and professional growth, is that you need to spend um, time on a subject to gain mastery. And so, one of the things that I'm going to dedicate towards learning CW is the resource of time and my focus um, towards this goal because it's important to me. And the thing that it allows me to know that I'm going to be successful in moving forward to this is I have resources, um, as well as a personal support network. Um, you know, that people that I know within my club and within my personal sphere that are interested in Morse code, are proficient in it, and as well as the resources that are available, clubs and organizations that I was not aware of in the past or didn't exist when I was first getting licensed and had an interest. So my second goal within 2026 is to operate overseas. Originally, when I upgraded my license, it was really twofold. The first was so that I could operate anywhere in the bands and not have to remember frequency allocations because that was frustrating to me. The second thing was I upgraded to have the sub privileges so that I could operate overseas without weird licensing things, that I could just bring some pieces of paper and just go and operate. And so I'd also like to activate a POTA or SOTA while overseas if possible, but that's not. I'm going to set that as an extra, not as a goal. And so, as a personal aside, last year we took a family trip into Europe, and we were pretty packed to the gills when it came to luggage, and traveled on trains and had sort of a minimal space. And I decided not to bring any radios with me, and I was just kicking myself. There was certain times when I was in the Slovak Republic that we had some open time, and I could have, activated, or not activated, I could have operated on 2 meters from the hotel we were staying in. And so if I would have brought a Baofeng with me, that would have been excellent, and make a few contacts because my license would have been good there with a sub prefix. So I'm not gonna put myself out again. I'll bring a $30 Baofeng with me. If it gets confiscated or destroyed or whatever, I don't care. And if I can actually bring an HF rig as well, I will do that. The third goal I have for 2026 is to set up low band antennas at my house. My QTH right now has capabilities for 6 meters to 40 meters, and several different wire antennas. And I've had a fine level of success on digital modes and sideband on them, really from 10 to 40 meters. Um, the the area that I am challenged is when it comes to 40 meters for DX, so not for regional communications, as well as 80 meters. I don't have any real 80 meter capability. And so, as the solar cycle changes and the propagation conditions due to the position of or the sun cycle, um, I need more capabilities on 40 meters because that will really be um, really the new 20 meters. Um, and 10 and 12 and 15 are going to be not as available or not as often. So I'd like to set up something, and it's a challenge at my house to do this with the longer antennas. It makes it more difficult, and so figuring out what I can do, whether to either put in a loaded vertical or something like that, it'll be a challenge, but it'll be a lot of fun because I have all the infrastructure in to hook that stuff in now, whereas I didn't before. So my goal number 4 is to have a permanent shack. Currently, I have a very fluid operating environment that is in my garage, that is on my workbench and spills around. Uh, it's not clean. Has house projects all around it, and I'd like to have a permanent operating position where I can actually have a radio and computer set up that's dedicated for this, and then have a dedicated workbench. Having those two combined, it makes it difficult to work on electronics projects, and do kit builds and build antennas and everything like that. So separating those out and becoming more organized is an important goal for me in 2026. And my goal number 5 is to have fun. And this sounds silly and stupid, but I'll bring up a personal anecdote in a second. But generally, if you have a hobby, don't treat it like a chore. Don't overcommit to overly large projects. For me, ham radio is a release from stress, and it shouldn't be a stressor. I have a very stressful job during the day, and I really like doing this because it brings me joy, and it gives me a release, and it gives me something that's very positive to do around very positive people. Um, my personal story about other hobbies is I am a amateur photographer. Enjoy film and analog film and digital photography. And several years ago, I set up a project for myself that I would shoot 35 millimeter and other analog films, at least a roll a week, throughout a whole year, and document a year of my family's life. And so I did that and ended up doing at least 1 to 2 rolls of film a week, and it became a huge endeavor. And my end goal from that, because I enjoyed myself so much taking the photos and processing the film and doing that whole process, I ended up with this huge backlog of photographs and film. And my intent was to create a book that documented this whole year of analog photography. And it's been 5 years since then, and I've yet to do that. And it actually gives me a bit of anxiety thinking about all that. So it sort of burned me out on photography, and so I want to have fun with the hobby, and I don't want to turn it into something that I feel obligated to do, or that I have projects and chores and things that aren't fun. I want to go out and you know combine this hobby with other things that excite me and are compatible with my family life. And so in the Boy Scouts, they have a thing that is done after events, and they call it a SSC, or a start, stop, and continue. And they sort of evaluate an event. And so in right here, what I've got in this slide is what I'm going to continue. And um, the things that are not goals, but they're things that give me joy. So they're not measurable outcomes, they're just things I'm going to do. is I really love POTA. And so I just want to keep getting outdoors and activating POTA. And beyond that, hunting POTA, and being active in that program. I find that community uh, generally pretty happy. People are really interested in getting other people to operate and improving the overall amateur radio hobby. And so I think that's positive. It's great. The other thing I'd like to do is exert myself more, get out hiking and camping and backpacking and doing more soda activations. Local to my area, there's at least 6 different soda peaks that are within a 15-minute drive. And um, the hike part is different, but at least a 15-minute drive. And so I need to be doing that. And I have people within my club that are um, excellent within the soda program and are great mentors and elmers in that area. So that's something I'd like to spend more time doing because as you get older, more physical exertion is important. Um, so following up to that last statement, is it fostering more friendships in the clubs I'm in and with fellow hams. As I get older, I find that um, you know it's more difficult to have personal relationships that are close within your employment or whatever, and so when you are hanging out with guys at field day or out activating POTA or soda, you know, it's a nice way to actually have friends that are outside of your normal social sphere, and I enjoy that, and I want to foster that. Beyond that, chasing DX is something that I am very excited to do. I mean, just the technical capabilities to be able to send HF signal um, up to the ionosphere and bounce it off to Japan or Africa or wherever is just exciting to me, and I enjoy that. And then contesting, I enjoy that, not from the point of view of operating. Like I get that it improves my operating skills and it's fun. I'm never going to be at the level that of some of the people I hear about on podcasts and on YouTube. But the thing that I found is it's a great way to get more DX so that I can increase my DXCC countries as well as other bands within um, you know countries that I already have on 20 meters or whatever, being able to hunt those countries on other bands so I can get them someday between 160 to 6 meters. So it's fun, and it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So it's one of those things where I want to casually operate, and that it brings me joy. Um, I find it to be a lot of fun. So I'm going to say thank you, and if you stuck around this long, you're a glutton for punishment. But keep watching and see how I meet my goals in 2026. Um, and hopefully I can, if you're a ham, I can operate with you and work you along the way. And if not, feel free to reach out and find out how you can become an amateur radio operator. This is Aaron, amateur radio call sign N6ACA. Thank you for watching.